Hey everyone, it is Redmen Originals Podcast time. I am Paul Machin. I'm joined in the studio by a pair of Stees, Ste Hoare and Ste Plunkett, as well as Dan Clubb as well. We're going to be catching up on the week's action for the Reds first and foremost. 2 pre-season friendlies under their belts. We're going to be having a good old natter about those and what we've learned really from both of the games, who's been the standout performers, etc. In part 2, we're going to be discussing Jordan Henderson's legacy and commenting on the Romeo Lavia rumours, which have reared their heads again. Dan was in here at the crack of dawn this morning, interviewing anyone who would dare to speak.
Anyone.
Didn't even have time to put shoes on.
No. If anyone's ever crossed paths, seen Romeo Lavia, I was interested in speaking to him this morning and did so.
Who did you speak to?
Sasha Tavlieri, Belgian football journalist, who's been front and centre and obviously tweeted the news this morning about the official bid, and Jacob Tanswell as well of The Athletic, Southampton correspondent. So, yeah. Excellent.
And more to come on all of that in part 2, but let's start with the pre-season. Rather than sort of go through game by game, I thought it was interesting just to kind of get the shape of things from people, really. Kind of go around the room. Who stood out for you? Ste Hoare.
Darwin Nunez. Again, you can't read too much.
Can we get this all done out front and out the way?
All caveats on like opposition and blah blah blah. I think there are certain things you can take from pre-season, and the fact that he seems to have slowed down, I think is the one thing that obviously looks like something he's worked on. Both goals in the friendly yesterday, the second friendly, kind of show that. I've always thought with Darwin is that he's instinctive, and if he doesn't have to think about it, he'll be fine. But the more time you give him, the more, the worse he gets. Basically, I thought we saw a little bit of that in the first game when, for some reason, he tried to pass to Salah when he could have just scored. But in the second game, going round the keeper was the right move. The second goal where he took his time, he went round the defender and then slotted it. I thought that was interesting. And the link up between him and Mo Salah, we saw glimpses of it last season, but obviously just not enough because Darwin fouled himself in and out the side, and he was on the wing sometimes and stuff like that. But there were moments where there was a bit of an understanding. Obviously the goal against Real Madrid is probably the standout. But even in that first game of the season, I remember the Fulham game when we threw Darwin up front and put him and Mo Salah together, and it looked like there was a little bit going on. So in that for me has been the key, because I haven't been ashamed. Like I've said, if you rank Liverpool's 5 forwards, Darwin was number 5 for me. He's the one who's least likely to get in the team. But if he's got, he's been given the number 9 shirt, and if he can finish moves off like he's finished the last couple, and he's absolutely given himself a shot. And especially if Liverpool might see Cody Gakpo as a midfielder, or a midfield option in one of those number 8s, there might be something there for him. But listen, if you're gonna have a good link up with somebody, link up with the best player. If you and the best player make each other look good, that's not a bad thing, is it? So that's the one thing I've took from it so far. Is I've been quite critical of Darwin Nunez, and maybe some people say too harsh on him a little bit, and perhaps that's right, but I think you can see now definitely coaching. Obviously, it's there or thereabouts. It looks like he looks more like a Liverpool centre forward than this chaotic agent, whatever we were calling him, like a bit of madness or whatever. He looks more like a centre forward now, which is encouraging.
I think that's right, isn't it, Ste Plunkett? I think that he looks more like a number 9. I think everyone kind of had that concern of, well, particularly with Gakpo coming in and doing a really great Bobby Firmino sort of impression, maybe Firmino plus. How is that going to fit in? How does Darwin Nunez fit in that? I've been saying all summer, he's in danger of falling in, Darwin, to the Divock Origi trap of if you build a system around him as a number 9 on the shoulder, then you'd get goals. You wouldn't play very good football, but you'll get goals out of him. But is he worth it? And that's the biggest sort of hill he's had to climb. And look, 2 pre-season friendlies in, I agree with Steve. The partnership with Salah has looked right. I mean, even his cross for Salah's goal, that's him then stretching his legs out on the left wing. It's a brilliant ball over to Salah as well. They seem to have that thing going for them at the moment.
Kind of reminiscent of the Everton goal, that one, wasn't it, down the left and firing it across. Everything Steve said, spot on. He's not so frenetic now, is he? His movement is elite. I don't think we can question that. The timing of his runs, the runs he actually makes are brilliant. But there's a calmness to finish for the first goal yesterday, just a little round the keeper and a slot. Didn't try and smash the laces off it, took it well. He's been a standout for me. I'm also interested in watching Luis Diaz, because obviously had a bad injury last year, six months out. Yeah. He come back and he looks like the Luis Diaz before his injury. The first thing he does when he gets the ball is face you up and want to go at you. Yeah. And I mean, we loved Sadio Mane for that. That's the first thing Mane did, which was get you one-on-one and destroy you. And Luis Diaz has got all that in his locker. Might be more prolific than Sadio. Might be a better finisher for me. Sadio missed a lot of good chances. You don't see that with Diaz. Maybe doesn't get as many, and that might be sort of averages, the law of averages. But really pleasing to see him.
But that's
looking
been the big criticism of Diaz, I think, almost like in his absence. People have really started to question his output. Is he going to score enough goals for us? What you saw in that performance yesterday was that he's, he'll look to link up, and there was some great little give and goes and stuff on the left hand side. But moreover, he was working himself into shooting positions. He has his goal is a carbon copy of a chance almost. He has a little bit earlier where he works it against the defender, gets that shot off, and that's going to be the difference. He's going to need someone to play off to do that more often, because I don't think you can trust that defences are going to be at the level where you can dribble at them quite like that. But as you say, I think
they'll figure him out. They'll figure that out. They'll just.
I think it's interesting as well. I think it's interesting. Actually, you could actually say all five of them have had a really promising start. Jota, you can Gakpo, Jota. Does Jota things in the first game, doesn't he? Scores 2 goals in a minute or something. So I think in terms of the attacking options, if Ben Doak, maybe is he going to be the 6th one? I don't know how that's going to plan out. But if Liverpool, maybe there's a bit of worry of, big season, you lose Roberto Firmino, you're going to replace him, or are you comfortable going with 5 plus a little bit of Doak and a little bit of Elliott and whatever? I think if the 5 stay fit, first of all, I think I'm fine with that. Obviously, is it when injuries hit, and listen, Jota and Diaz in particular have had sketchy injuries. Nunez ended last season injured. It's only really Mo Salah and Gakpo so far, touch wood, who have been all right for us. So that is one, but I think all 5 of them will be look sharp. They look really, really sharp. And if there are concerns about maybe what's going to be behind them and how long it's going to take a new midfield to gel, what are we like at the back? Obviously, we're happy with the first couple of choices, but if there is some rotation, are we not? It might be that you need those lads, the firepower. You might need to win a couple of 3-2s or whatever, and all 5 of them look like razor sharp.
Well, that was the question sort of asked of the game yesterday, Dan, was, I think someone asked me, why is Salah started the second half team and not the first half team? And it was because, in my view, because it was the second string team and it was a much weaker outfit. And it's the reason why we get a draw, is we put Darwin and Salah up front, and their firepower alone was enough actually to get Liverpool to a satisfying conclusion, if not a win.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's all about finding a balance, isn't it, in those sort of teams? And I think you're right. I think their second team was, in both games really, the second half side was weaker, certainly defensively, and that's how it showed. Obviously, conceded goals in both second 45 minutes. On the Nunez stuff, it's interesting. We always spoke last year about what is his finish, like what type of finisher is he, and he showed different elements to that in this. I was really concerned in the first 10 minutes of the first game. Obviously, I was there when he squared. I was like, "What are you doing?" Like that was a real eye opener for me, because I thought, if you're not confident now, first 10 minutes of the first pre-season game, if you haven't got it in you to take that shot on,
is that what you saw it as, a confidence thing?
Yeah. 100%. I saw, if you're not confident enough to take that finish on yourself and look to pass it on at that point, what are we dealing with here? Obviously, he gets a second bite of the cherry and finishes. So maybe from that moment on, he's gone up a level. He's gone, okay, I can do this myself. But for him to not take that chance first time around was a little bit concerning.
I agree. It was concerning. My thoughts are more the other way around. He's taking this seriously enough. Like, he's there and he's going, well, we're in. Oh, it's only a friendly. Fuck it, I'll just square it to Salah, because you're right. I think there's a little bit of maybe that is confidence of like, no, I'm the 9, I'm the main man. Just get into the box and shoot.
He should have.
Yeah, he absolutely should have just taken that chance on. But is there a little bit of, he's trying to build he's proved that he's built a relationship with Salah by giving it to him. It's a stupid pass. He passes it a foot behind him. Go on, Steve.
That's the thing. Pre-season's about building partnerships, so it doesn't surprise you that Canate and Trent play in the first half, and then you've got Gakpo and Diaz, which is an emerging relationship on the pitch through Diaz's injury again, and then you've got the relationship that's always been there and is growing every game with Salah and Nunez. So if you talk to any Liverpool coach or manager or any manager from years gone by, pre-season is about minutes in the tank and building partnerships. So I think that's probably why they came on in the second half.
I also think I've been interested where Alexis McAllister's played. Actually, he's played on the right a little bit, hasn't he, as well as the left, and I just presumed he was pigeon, rubber stamped to be the left hand side, what Curtis Jones did at the end of last season. But we've seen him move around a little. We saw Szoboszlai move around, we saw Gakpo move around. Alexander Arnold's played in midfield in both games, but I don't know if we can draw too much out of that because of the lack of options. Like, we haven't really got anyone else. Our right backs have been Conor Bradley and Joe Gomez predominantly, haven't they, for a little bit or whatever. So that's the one that I think sometimes, I don't know if you agree, but like, and you said this a few weeks ago, you start learning things about Liverpool in pre-season. I don't think we're at the point where we've learned that much yet about, because if we'd signed a Lavia or Henderson and Fabinho were still around and Trent was in midfield, I think we'd all be like, Sam, what's in midfield this year?
I agree.
I still think at this point in time we don't know the answer. My guess is the fact that they're trying to invert Costa Simicast to play a little bit of inverted stuff, they still want to do it. So,
well, it says more that they haven't got it. They're not really certain on their options for that. I think Costas is a bit of yeah, exactly. And Costas is a bit of a spare part. I mean, again, we kind of want to come on to it, but it's like what questions are still remaining. I think it's as much as I can now say, because we've been speculating on this for the week from up until last week, what formation is going to be our main formation, and a lot of people going, oh, I think we're going to go back to 4-3-3. Definitely, we bought 4-3-3. Well, the second that team came out against Karlsruhe, we're like, oh, 4-3-3. If we're persisting with the box midfield and we're playing Conor Bradley in an inverted, and we're playing Simicast as inverted in the other half, then clearly that's what we're going for. Absolutely. We're continuing to train for that, which I think is interesting. So I think we've got a greater handle on that. But you're right, it's cropped up a bunch of extra questions, and that one of will Trent be used as the DM? At the moment, yes, because we've clearly got more lads who can play inverted than can play DM. The fact that McConnell plays it in the second half yesterday.
We've literally got none.
Yeah.
Two of them we got left behind, and we saw James Miller. They were the 3 number 6s, and then Thiago was probably the other one, and he's injured, and Bajcetic. Yeah. So all 5, if 3 had been gone or leaving, and 2 were injured. So at some point, Trent might be the 6th choice DM. Yeah. Fingers crossed we never have to get to a point where our 6th choice DM ever has to play. Yeah. But at the minute, I know we're going to speak on Lavia earlier, and obviously I had Neil Jones, and he said like the information he's had from people he spoke to is that people are going to sign at least one out and out 6. And don't be shocked if they sign someone who can do it as well. Mm-hmm. And maybe McAllister falls into that range. Maybe he can do bits of it. But that's the only thing. Disappointing is the wrong word, but I would have liked to have seen that more. I would have liked to have see what we look like with a DM, with Trent moving inside to play alongside him. It's just so happened that obviously I don't think they were going to buy one until Saudi Arabia came to, for that. Basically the 2 lads who played more minutes than anyone in midfield have been poached away. So that's why there's question marks. But the only other one, and I'd like to you guys thoughts, is like, is Gakpo is so fascinating to me because he looks really good as an 8. Yeah. Like really, really good. And again, he can play 9. He's done a really good number 9 impression. He scored goals, but I wonder if is he a legitimate, what's Jürgen seeing him as? Is he seeing him as an 8, a bit of a hybrid role, or what is he? Because I think he's so good with his back to goal. Yeah. He's so good with his back to goal, and he can definitely do a job in there at times. You know, you can see a world where it's, you know, say it's Jota on the left, it's Nunez up front, it's Salah on the right, or whatever, and then Gakpo's one of the 8, a very attacking team. We saw Jürgen go to it at times last season. He's definitely, and but he's not like, I don't know, he's not like Shoe and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Right? He can play right wing, but he's not very good at it. Or I don't think Harvey Elliott's good playing right wing. Gakpo, he looks good. He's like a legit option in there. Jürgen put Bobby in there a few times, and I didn't really. No, it was a bit. Yeah. Gakpo looks like he can be a proper 8.
But if you go into the squad and look at what we've got now, and you've got McAllister and Szoboszlai who can play slightly further up the pitch. I responded to your thing yesterday and said I don't like the idea of Gakpo being so deep. Mm-hmm. I think the disconnect last season was we had midfielders who were trying to hold the 3, and there was a big void between them and the front line, and at times we couldn't break the lines and we gave the ball away, and then we found ourselves defensively under pressure with Szoboszlai and McAllister pushed slightly further up with the specialist 6 you've just referenced, and then Trent coming in alongside him. You've almost got a double pivot. You would be saying to Gakpo, come and disengage from the 2 wide lads, and I think he's I'm with you. I love watching him play. He's brilliant, and he will help us get over the difficulty of losing Bobby. I'd like to see him further up the pitch, still with back to goal, but they can lay the ball off to McAllister and Szoboszlai. Then Carney will be coming forward into advanced 8 roles because they're not ball recyclers. We didn't buy them to do Henderson and Ronaldo Mark II. We bought them because they look forward with the ball. They're front foot players, and I think we changed the way. We've become much more possession based rather than winning it back and killing people in transition. We might have the ball a lot longer. And for me, I think Gakpo is more effective slightly further up the pitch.
He's brilliant, him.
I think what we saw, Dan, from that game yesterday, because I agree with your point. I want him in the final third. Yeah. But actually, I think we saw that as the half wore on, and again, it's just pure speculation at this point. But the issue we had last season was how weak we were through the middle of the park, which is why we shifted to that formation. There's there's a greater sense of responsibility being placed on those 8s now, because yes, I think they're entrusted to be far more attacking than they've been in previous iterations of Klopp's systems. But at the same time, we can't just have 5 up front and hope that everything's going to be all right. And I think you saw that with Gakpo. I think he just figured them out as the game went on. He figured out when he could start to arrive. And the back end of that first half, he just got into the game and was all over the game. In the first game, Karlsruhe, he was far more like a 10 the way he played it, but he did play it. His starting position was deeper, but again, he was just phenomenal in that game yesterday.
He was, and he is. He's an incredibly intelligent footballer. So I think we're seeing that now in the fact that Jurgen Klopp is entrusting him to play an 8. We've seen it at the back end of last season in the Premier League, obviously. He knows, well, pretty much whatever instructions Cody Gakpo is given, he can carry them out. And he learns as the game goes on, as you said there as well. But I think you're right. I think even McAllister and Szoboszlai, who, as Steve referenced, have been brought to be these technical ball-playing midfielders who will look to create things and look to make things happen. They're going to have defensive responsibilities as well. Of course they are. They're not going to be just 10s. We don't play with 10s, which is Fabio Carvalho's beef, of course.
Yeah.
But with Gakpo, I think...
And apparently Jürgen just not talking.
I'm not talking to him, which never helped, yeah. I think with Gakpo, what we've seen, pretty much since the day he arrived, actually, at Liverpool Football Club, is just how incredible this fella is, because we signed him as a left winger who played a little bit as a 9. We basically immediately converted him into a false 9. He's doing the best Bobby Firmino impression we've ever seen, quite frankly. We all speculated, we all worried about who could possibly replace Roberto Firmino and what he does. He's so unique in what he offers. Cody Gakpo goes, oh, I'll do that, and I'll do it slightly differently and arguably slightly better than Bobby, because he's got different qualities. He's a bit more physical, he's a bit quicker, he's probably a better finisher than Bobby was, so he's got so much about his game that's a joy to watch. In terms of him being an 8, I think it'd be more of a break glass option, and maybe we do need to change a game and look to make something happen. I think we'll go to him there, whilst you've still got your 3 forwards. I think predominantly, I personally would like to see him as that false 9. I think he just suits him down to the ground.
When we look at Man City, they've got tons of players like this. No one ever really, exactly. Nobody ever really questions. Oh, Bernardo Silva's starting in the front 3 this week. Oh, Bernardo Silva's starting in the midfield 3 this week. Oh, Bernardo Silva's playing an inverted left back role this week. No one ever goes, what's he doing? Why is that happening? De Bruyne plays all over the midfield, all over the front 3. Phil Foden's done exactly the same. And I think Gakpo's one of a great example of football, and I think Szoboszlai is going to be that as well. I think that's why we've gone big on him. I think McAllister is that, but for the deeper positions. Yeah. We've seen him play right 8. He played deeper in the first game in the second half of that one as well. It does look like this tactical positional flexibility has been what we've bought for, and that's making it really hard for us to nail down, because we're looking for absolutes so that we can try and feel a bit more secure in what we're going to see, start to predict the future. But again, the more we've seen, the more questions it's kind of raised, which is I think is great.
They're good questions to have, though, aren't they? I just want to say, sorry, before we move on, I should have said earlier, Ben Doak has probably been my standout. I can't get enough of watching Ben Doak play football. He's so exciting. Like Steve touched on it earlier about him being our 6th choice. Sound. 3 weeks ago, I was a bit, I don't know. I know the opposition, we have to take that into account. He is electric. He's so good to watch. Like, fearless,
he is, but he's so raw.
Let him go.
No, I'm with you, but
let him do it. Like, honestly, boss.
I get it, but like, I would still say like that's a lot. And if we want someone to play right wing in the Europa League, I still think Jürgen will go like an Elliott.
He'll either learn very quickly from the players around him, or it'll become a problem. This rawness.
Yes, he's weak. Streets ahead of where he should be.
No, I am not doubting. Listen, mate, he's a star. He's an absolute superstar. When we signed him, I spoke to someone at his agency who a bit off the record, but I won't name names. But it was like, you've signed a superstar, and I was like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, you're just big. And he was like, no, I promise you, you've signed a superstar. So I'm all for what I'm saying is, it's all well. Oh yeah, give Ben Doak, but like 5 minutes they want a Premier League game and you throw him on. It's a different kettle of fish, and I get it.
I see him as that. I think like, okay, Michael Owen came in and was an absolute breakout because of Robbie Fowler's injury at the start of the 97-98 season. But he comes in the season before, right at the tail end. He scores against Wimbledon. Is it like the last game of the season? Or close enough to. And it's that electric pace.
The pace is frightening.
His end product's not quite there. We saw it a couple of times yesterday where he just, put the afterburners on. And he's smoking two guys on the wing, but he gets the byline and he wants to get a shot off, or he's choosing the wrong crossing option or whatever. Yeah. But as far as an X factor goes, if you've got 5 subs, and I just don't think we took advantage of 5 subs correctly last season. Now with what we've got, you've got the ability there to say to Mo Salah, because we've got in our head Salah's not going to play the Europa League. I mean, I'm not sure Mo Salah would be happy with not playing the Europa League. I think he just wants to play every game and score every goal. He scores European goals, I think. But there's something in that with Ben Doak. He is raw, but you might be able to give Salah gets 15 minutes off in the Premier League and then gets half an hour off in the Europa League, and then actually you've refreshed Salah without giving him whole games off. We've never been able to
do that really either. Not to any sort of great level. We've had options every now and then, but too often those options have been unavailable. You haven't been able to take Salah off because who'd you turn to? You're doing a very much an Oxlade-Chamberlain out there, and he's done a decent job of that, don't get me wrong, but it was never like for like. It's never made sense. His
position as well.
No, of course not. No, whereas with Ben Doak, we've got a genuine right winger who's exciting, and also, it should be said, imagine you have a left back or left-sided centre-half who's just been man-magged by Salah for 60 minutes. And then this kid comes on, who's going to run at you time and time again.
That's the level, is that I think if you're going to be a young player who's a forward, you can learn the ability to have the pace. That's a really good place to start, because absolute worst case is you're just going to be a nuisance. And absolutely like that, and that's what he looks like. He's got work to do. Like he's got, I say, of course he's a kid. Of course, he's only been here 10 minutes. But you are right. The pace is frightening. Sometimes
it's what Harvey Elliott lacks. If Harvey Elliott had that pace, we'd all be sitting here going, well, there's Salah's heir apparent, because he's got everything else going for him. He doesn't have the technical abilities, but I remember, it's stupid because I don't think it's quite a straight comparison, but when we had Shelvey and Henderson, and it was like, God, if Henderson just had Shelvey's cockiness and his shooting ability, and that, you'd have the perfect midfielder, but both were kind of lacking a little bit. But ultimately, Henderson's all-round stability and physicality and his pace and his energy did for him. You know what I mean? Shelvey was always going to be limited. And I'm not saying Elliott will be by that, but you're right. Being blessed with electric pace puts you above, gives you the start and gives you the leg up on everyone else.
Obviously, when you watch the younger teams and he's playing in them or whatever, and you watch him running past younger players, that's one thing. But but it wasn't going to be like when he's playing against men. Well, I saw him come on against Derby last year, and was it the lad who was at Everton? Sibley just ran him off the pitch. And then I get it, Bundesliga 2 opposition, but he is...
Luca Dean did it.
He sent Luca Dean for the Echo. Yeah. He is lightning. The rest of it can you lay, but you are right to say the pace gives you a good starting point. And who better to learn from? Who better to learn from than being a pacey right winger? Well, I need an end product. Well, let's just go and copy the fella who's arguably the greatest footballer we've ever had at this footy team, or certainly one of the top 5, who is a fast winger who scores loads of goals. So he's got that. He's definitely got it. But you are right to say, of all the young players, he's the most exciting. But I think pace always does that. As soon as you see someone like Adama Traore's been living off it for years, and he never quite hit the heights, but he ends up at Barcelona. Because when you've got that raw elite pace is such a problem.
It's the fearlessness
isn't it?
Yeah. It's the fearlessness, sorry Steve, the fearlessness for me is the fact that he is so young, but any situation, any game, drop him into it, he goes, give me the ball. And you see the player who's giving him, whether it be Trent or Joe Gomez, and certain, almost they wait sometimes for young lads to say, give me back then, protect him. Don't need to do it with Ben Doak. Give him the ball and watch him run at people. I just love him.
Well, we've got 6 if you include him across the front line, and both Jota and... We don't like to see him play on the right, but he's done it. And Diaz is much more adept at playing on that. Man City got the integration of Phil Foden absolutely spot on. They were 3-0 up and they put him on and he made it 4 and 5 and he grew from that. That's a really good opportunity for Liverpool to do the same thing with Doak.
I think what the big questions, but I want to move on to the defence. I think that's the one that's raised the most questions over the last couple of games. But just on the front line really, and the remaining questions to be answered from that, I'm fascinated to see how we put it all together, because right now we've got 2 teams and they've mixed and matched a little bit in amongst them. But right now it looks like we've got a Salah-Darwin partnership and we've got a Gakpo-Jota partnership, and it's different because Gakpo's basically played behind Jota, whereas obviously Salah's playing alongside Darwin. That doesn't, when you put that together, it's Jota and Darwin are playing in the same position, and right now we've got 2 number 9s who look to be an absolutely scintillating goal scoring form for us, which I think is very, very encouraging. But it's then the questions are, where does Diaz fit into this? Where does then Doak fit in? Because they're now it does make a little bit more sense that Gakpo can do basically everything. Salah's your right winger, definitely. It looks like Jota and Darwin battling it out for the number 9 slot, and then you've got these two just wingers in Diaz and Doak, who are all pace, and they're all like, you know, I'm gonna run at you and I'm gonna take you on, I'm gonna make things happen. And I suppose the thing of us moving the inverted fullback to the left in the second half of those games, whether that will play a part in it as well, or is that just a stopgap solution? Is that just finding something for Costas to do, covering for a lack of midfield options? They're a little bit of the unknown, but I am fascinated because when we get to these Singapore games now, we'll switch from this 2 teams thing to more of a 60-minute mass changes later on in the game kind of thing, and then that'll get closer and closer to being what our team is. And it's just like, yeah, we've got 2 contrasting puzzles here. How do they mesh?
The 5 subs thing's the key there, because all 5 of them, 3 will start and 2 will come on every game. That's what it gives you, and that's how you keep them happy as well. I think it's easier if you only have 3 subs. A midfielder always comes on, and one of your 2 strikers gets on. The subs thing's massive, because whoever you start, the other 2 will always get on. Salah will always stay on. You think he very rarely does like coming off, but it'll always be. And then Doak's the other options, like, well, if you're winning or if you just need something, then he's like the emergency. That's the extra subs give you. But you are right. You say 2 9s though. I still think Gakpo might be first choice as the 9.
I agree.
I still think he might be
over Darwin.
I think he might be.
And Jota.
And Jota. I think Jürgen right now, if you asked him to play, we were playing a game tomorrow when everyone was fit and healthy. I think he'd go Jota on the left side, on the right, and Gakpo up front. I think that's what he'd do now. But I mean, listen, it's not a bad. And then Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez aren't 2 bad options to have off the bench.
I think Diaz starts.
I just my general bit. Listen, I think we're going for the more horses for courses approach this season.
Definitely.
And there's games where you're going to need different things to do, different approaches. But my overall takeaway from this so far is we're having a goal scorer number 9 in that slot this season, because I just don't see the point of owning Darwin Nunez, and that's why I think we've been playing Jota that way, because I think there's been a chance to do different things. We could have kept Gakpo in there, and it might just be that we're having a look, and you know, in this we're just practicing the backup plan. But it feels like if we've switched systems, we've only played it for 10 games at the back of last season. I don't think you waste a single moment of pre-season action training a system that you're not going to. When your first choice system isn't settled and isn't totally understood, I'm not sure you burn precious gameplay time on something you're not going to do regularly. But I think the beauty is, you know, as we said, I think Gakpo can clearly do that. And
he can do everything, mate. He can do everything.
For me, what it is with Gakpo, and the reason I think he will be the first choice 9, sort of when the season begins, all being well, of course, is that we all know and seen and have heard how much Klopp adored Roberto Firmino and what he brought to the system. Now, I don't want to sort of, you know, wax about what's been and gone now, but I think Gakpo offers all that. And I think he's going to proceed with that. I think he's going to want that again. And I don't see a world whereby Gakpo doesn't start as our 9. I think Nunez is great. Nunez is still a bit X-factor-y for me. I don't know. He offers a bit from the left and central. I think he'll be thrown into games to sort of change it within. I don't see him starting the big games still. I don't think he's ready for that. I haven't seen enough yet to suggest that. I think what will be interesting is Jota come from the left with Gakpo central. I think we'll still see that as well. But for me, I just think Gakpo, from what he's shown so far, I just can't keep him at the side.
Good options to have, isn't it? It's really positive.
And it goes back to your point. It's just it's the short blanket of it all is we're pushing certain players into certain positions because we are lacking in defensive midfielders, and that's the one big caveat that we can't know with this. And let's just move on to that and the defence. The interesting thing is mentioned Costas not being used as an understudy to Andy Robertson. We're choosing to use Jarell Quansah as the left-sided centre-half when we flip it. So rather than it be Robertson and Costas, the left-backs are now the left-sided centre-halves thing. We've shifted it so Costas had to go. I don't think that's really worked. Or, you know, it's been okay, but I think the main criticism has been Liverpool's defence still looks shaky. You know, I've seen people saying Joel Matip and Gomez, I'm not really trusting them. look at the second half team there. It was Kwanzaa, Matip, Gomez, and in front of them it was Kostas Tsimikas playing his second ever half of football as an inverted fullback, effectively as a double pivot in midfield alongside McConnell, who got sold down the river by Adrian a minute into the game by being played a ridiculous pass under pressure and was then fighting against himself. Yeah. If Liverpool look a bit shaky defensively, I suspect it's a little bit of that more than the other.
The first choice defence, Virgil looks sharp, Kanate's look good.
Yeah.
The first choice defence has been pretty fine. I put Conor Bradley in that as well. There's probably a reason why he's in that. Don't want him too young.
He's actually been one of my standouts.
Too young of a second half team. I am concerned about Joel Matip physically. Again, I take your points on it. Listen, you can't again. It's just I thought it was actually quite funny how bad it was at times. It was just like they've been legged around and then on. You're right. They're getting no protection. They haven't got the boss lads per se in front.
Well,
of them.
One of the goals, like Kostas and McConnell are jogging back because it's pre-season, because they've been running to the ground by Jürgen 3 times a day for the last 2 weeks.
And the lad's like 5 yards offside, and I know Matip's weak in the challenge, but I was worried about Matip at the end of last season physically, and he looks slow, and he's never been fast, but he looks again. It might just be that he's absolutely goosed because they've been running the nuts off them all, and he's in his 30s now, and he's never been blessed with pace. But he's the worry for me. Is that I always thought, if he's your backup, you're fine. He's a very good backup centre half, but if his legs are gone, if it's a bit Fabinho-y, then that is a concern because. I've never been, again, I don't need to go over the Joe Gomez stuff. It's not for me. So I'm drawing this not just on the 2 pre-season games, but on what we saw towards the back end of last season as well. We've all been told, like, Liverpool are looking at a centre half and they're trying to get the midfield stuff done. And obviously the Henderson and Fabinho stuff has brought that even more to the forefront. I do wonder if they're going to do something on the centre back because they probably need to.
Yeah.
I am concerned about Matip. He's been brilliant, but it's a bit Fabinho of start of last season where his legs do look like they've gone, and that in this system, Paul, you're going to be asked to do a lot of running.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because again, we speculated this at the end of the season. They didn't do this. They played Matip and they flipped Matip and Gomez in the roles. They're actually putting Matip in the Van Dijk position now, which is central, which is the one who doesn't have to leg all over the place. But again, the problem is I think the lads around him. I don't disagree. I think he is. Look, he's on his way down. He just is. I would be moving him on this summer. I do think it's a little. This is the one where we can say. There's some things you can safely say, and there's some things that have question marks around them. I thought Kwanzaa looked good in the first game. I think he struggled as much in that.
He's good on the ball, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's good on the ball.
I think he's a solid player. Right now, for me, he's Nat Phillips in this squad.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be moving him on. I'd keep him around, whether he's interested in that. I don't know if he's going to be good enough to be a regular starter for us. I think we'd have to be flipping the inverted thing, maybe. Or is he, I don't know, I'm not sure if he's Andy Robertson's understudy, probably.
It should be a new signing, shouldn't it?
Yeah,
it should be a new signing.
I think you both make really good points in your analogy there of the cover for the defence. Do you remember player cam and used to follow a player around for 10-15 minutes? If you'd put player cam on Matip yesterday, you're right, the players around him gave him no support. But at the key times when he needs to be a centre-back and make decisions and deal with things as a centre-back, it's gone.
Yeah.
That ability to be commanding and be confident and be assertive and go and win the ball and take the man as well, or step out and beat a man and be that player that we remember, that's gone. And it happened with Jamie Carragher. The legs just fell off it. You know what I mean? It happens. And unfortunately for Joe Matip, if you put him on the player cam yesterday, you'd be quite shocked how second-tier German players are giving him the run around because the decisiveness in his game is gone. I don't want to get into the Joe Gomez thing because I think I agree with Ste. It doesn't work as a centre back for me anymore. Mm-hmm. We've got money coming in. We've got to buy a left back, but not at the expense of Andy Robertson. I think the left back comes in to give the other two lads a rest rather than to. You're not going to see a world where Andy Robertson doesn't play for Liverpool. He epitomises everything that Klopp wants in a player. And probably one of his greatest stories. So for me, if anyone comes in, they've got to be closer to the other two to give them a break, because we can't go through a season relying on what is now a ridiculously huge drop-off.
I think Jarell Kwanzaa is the shape of what we're looking for. It's a left-footed left-sided centre-half.
Levi Colwell, innit, before...
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
and that's the reason why we were interested. That's not going to happen now, but
yeah,
it makes perfect sense why they wanted that.
Is he ready? And he with Quanta. I like Quanta.
I don't think he is, but I don't think.
I think he needs another loan. He's probably going to have another loan.
Bristol Rovers he was last year.
He needs a championship or higher loan probably, and to give him another test in that. But look, if we keep him round, and there's clearly something there, isn't there? I think just in the brief glimpses of it, it's that thing. Going back to the Matip thing, there's a reason we bought him as he was Virgil van Dijk 1.0 or 0.5, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. We wanted this tall, comfortable on the ball, composed centre half to be our leader, our left-sided centre back, and he was never quite good enough to be that. It suited him perfectly moving over to be the supporting defender. But what you saw from him yesterday, he's still doing those burst and runs, and I don't think the system allows for that defender to be doing those kind of things on the ball. It takes away his greatest strengths, really. I thought Gomez was all right, actually. I do think he suits that right-sided centre-half role in that back three. I think that's Joe Gomez's almost perfect position. Absolutely, for me. Yeah. But there definitely are question marks, and that's going to be the next stage when it gets pushed back together. Is it just as simple as Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate, Koff, Trent, but Bradley until that point?
And we might see this in Singapore. Like, do they give the Matip Gomez duo a game with the good lads?
Yeah.
With the proper midfield in front of them and see how they are, maybe, or just split it up and you put Matip next to Konate and you put Gomez in with just because that's what might happen. We all know Van Dijk and Konate is the first choice. Now, they should know each other's games well enough to be able to do it. Maybe you do need to drop them in because that's what's going to happen. Konate's going to get injured. He just his record shows you that he picks up injuries. So someone's going to have to play when he can't. And I would like to see that. Just like, if it's Gomez, it's sad. If it's Matip, whatever, it is what it is. But I do think that's something that we probably need to see because I'm with Ste. I was comfortable with the drop off from Konate to Matip at the start of last season and certainly the year before, but I thought he was excellent. It concerns me now. I would, if you said if Matip's playing the next 10, I do think that does concern me. And
you want to be buying that. You need to. You need to start to be looking towards who's the next Virgil van Dijk. I think,
which is hard. It's so hard.
It's impossible.
Man City can't get Gvardiol out of Leipzig because centre halves are going. Look at Colwell. He's going. Chelsea got off like 40 million quid for him. He's had to play, and he's not going. He's going to play for them. Yeah. There's a centre half shortage in general, and the fact that we're looking for a backup. You know what I mean? That's a different thing.
And that's the thing is, this is the problem is I don't think we own backups. We need better, and that's still the issue when you've got a world class someone in a position. That's why it needs to be you need to sell it as a project.
Yeah,
I know, and that was the beauty of the Colwell links was, well, we've shifted our system, so you've got two positions you play in now. You're actually understudy to Robertson and
you're
Van
getting lots of games.
So you're gonna get plenty of outings there, and then your job is to displace Robertson short term, and then long term your Virgil van Dijk's replacement. But we're in that uncomfortable position on that, really. I think it's obvious we need to strengthen in that area of the pitch, but it will be what happens next is going to be interesting to see.
They've had to put on the back burner. Well, I think what they wanted now is they would have had their midfielder they wanted in and they'd be focusing on the defender, but the Saudi stuff is just through the spanner in the works, and they've had to obviously put all their eggs in that basket because maybe they had one midfielder that they like, now they might need to go and buy two, and then we can look at a defender. If you are prioritising what we need, I can understand them doing that. The Saudi bids for Henderson and Fabinho shifted the landscape, and Liverpool don't like getting caught out. Liverpool are methodical in the transfer business. They know they're meticulous, and it's hard to be meticulous when like
under pressure.
Well, not that, also like
wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah, there was never, I bet in all the wildest dreams, when they have scenario A, B, C, D written out on a board, none of them had, we lose Fabinho and Henderson at the same time. There might have been scenarios where you lose one or the other, and then we'll do this. But
I told you, it's the other week, it's like when you kill off Han Solo and Luke Skywalker, but choose to actively keep Princess Leia alive, and then Carrie Fisher dies. You're like, oh shit, we've got no more legacy characters left in this, and that's where the Liverpool left scrambling around. And what I didn't like, I thought Trent was fine in the DM. And I think he did look a little leggy, and again, it's too hard to judge freshness and stuff, but for me, he looked a revelation playing in the inverted right back role. He looks a revelation playing as more of an 8 in the 6. He looks
much responsibility.
He looks very.
Well, he has to get the borders back to goal. That's the thing.
Exactly.
I don't want the last thing you want is Alexander-Arnold getting the ball and having to turn on it. You want him with the game in front of him.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
why.
He's always done.
And he's fucking brilliant at it. You can see everything.
And I do wonder why. And we'll do Lavia in part 2, but why this is why we're pushing the button now. We're going, okay, we've had. That's not going to work. We debated last week, is it easy to go and buy somebody who can play an inverted fullback or whatever? I think Conor Bradley has actually performed well beyond my expectations.
Really good,
And I think, if you need to throw him in an isolated game, he'll be fine. He's really comfortable on the ball. He's brave. He'll go and win the ball back. He's quick. He'll get forward. He'll go and support the attack. He does lack a little when he gets into that final third.
He looks so slight.
Yeah.
He needs to hit the gym that sent it.
But he's not tiny, which I think is okay. I think so. I can see why they've kept him over Calvin Ramsey for this season potentially, but he'll do as a break glass. But right now, Trent just looks like an average football or good football. He looks fine in that 6, but he doesn't look exceptional playing in it. So we need to get back to him being in that, and that will make everything flow. I think just on sort of lastly from me on this, we have this problem every season whenever you split your squad into 2 11s, and it was 11 plus really, because by the time the game finished we probably used 4 or 5 other lads in it, which only technically weakened the prospect, but then Frauendorf put an absolute belter of a cross in for Darwin to have that header that got saved. But it makes us feel like the squad's weaker than it is, when in reality, because I think in our heads we've gone, well, there'll be a Europa League 11 or there'll be a Cup 11. There's no such thing as 2 11s in football. It never, ever happens. You'd always have some continuity that carries over game to game. So there will always be probably 3 or 4 lads from the Premier League game will play in the Europa League game, and then it will all start to make more sense. Throw Thiago into the mix, throw Bacchetta's into the mix. Things should look a little bit more sensible, but some DMs in a centre-half would probably be helpful.
I mean, the centre-half thing's gone up a notch, in my opinion, from what I've seen. I know it's hard, and I shouldn't really draw too much from 2 90-minute games against Bundesliga 2 sides at the start of pre-season, but I agree with both what the lads have said and you, Paul. I think Matip looked quite a long way off it, and I was almost comfortable with Liverpool's strategy of, we'll deal with the defender later if we have to. That's changed a little bit now already for me, and I know we've got to be reactive because of the Henderson and Fabinho stuff, but that defender conversation, that needs to be happening just a little bit more.
Well, I suppose, Dan, that could be one that can run into the season. With the windows open until September,
possibly, that
isn't one that you need to sort like now. You can get it. You can be relatively content.
The midfielder needs to be now, whereas the defender because his backup. But I get that. But like I say, I was concerned about Matip anyway. I actually think Gomez might have usurped Matip in this small sample size. I'm aware, but Matip, I was really worried about him at Karlsruhe. I watched him a lot, obviously, and I wasn't convinced in the slightest. He looked just off it, completely off it.
He looks like his legs are gone.
It's worrying.
He looks like his legs are gone.
Yeah, it's yeah, it is interesting. I mean, plenty of positives to take from it so far. I've really enjoyed both games. I think which has been one of the takeaways. The first 2 pre-season games are normally awful. You know what I mean? Like they're fun. But we're not playing at Prenton Park. You know what I mean? And seeing a couple of the stars and whatever. I think the level of competition. I think the fire in the bellies of the players, how committed they've been. You know, there's been a couple of smiles here and there, but you could see how pissed off Salah was toward the back end of the game. You know, he doesn't want to be losing football matches. He doesn't want things to be breaking down. He wanted to go and get his goal, and he did. So I definitely like to see that. And
Kit looks nice as well.
Kit looks good. Yeah,
Kit looks good. Don't like the numbers though. I prefer the Premier League numbers than the that 9 on Darwin's back. I don't know. That needs to be a proper Premier League number now before I start buying into it.
I think that's fair. We had a super chat come in, totally unrelated to the discussion, but Daniel McMurray asked, says, "Hey guys, thoughts on the trialled new offside rule? Short term there'll be more goals, long term more teams will park the bus, will hurt our play style." I've not seen any of this. It was trial.
So
I think it was in the Women's World Cup. Was it last
night?
No,
it's more a case of if any part of your body is online with the defender, then you're onside. They haven't started. Not in the World Cup. It's just that's the new rule, isn't it? Where so you can leave
Holland first.
So you can leave your foot level and go. What it'll do, it'll kill our high line. That just goes.
Suits Darwin and Salah though.
It'll do what it's designed to do. The forward players will absolutely fucking love it, and defenders will be a nightmare. The pitch will be so big because it'll kill high lines off. Only like, Liverpool play the high line because they trust the VAR technology to get them half a yard offside. There's no such thing as half a yard offside anymore. I don't like it personally. I think it's a fudging way of trying to get more goals into games, but I don't know. I don't think it's necessary.
There'll be games we benefit from that though, because at times we've looked at it and thought, do away with the high line, horses for courses. We talked about, there'll be games when we might find ourselves in a world where we have to play both Gomez and Matip. You don't want a high line with those two at the moment, so you drop off, and then you use our pacing behind. So long as it's short in it type of thing, we might benefit from it.
That was one of the things I thought was interesting about yesterday's game. I thought Greta Firth give us a good game of football. And
gnarly, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's shifted in that from first to second. It opened up more. They were playing quite a high line, and actually our counter attack looked pretty on point, which is good to see. Our build up play looked really good in the first half. So, Klopp, going back to that We Are Liverpool podcast interview with Klopp, he was talking about we want to be the best in the press, and we want to be the best at this, and I was like, oh cool, so I thought he's revealing what our overall mantra is for the season. We're getting back to gegenpressing, and then everybody just went, we want to be best at set pieces, we want to be best at this, we want to be best. It's like, okay, cool, sound, but they're not stopping short here. They want to, because you can't do all them things in one hit. You want to be good at loads of different ways of beating teams. So yeah, you're right, the high line thing will definitely play a part in it, but as we said there, it's the personnel. The odds of you ever having, the odds of that back five, which you can have the DM in there, ever playing a game of football together with Adrian behind them as well, by the way, who was fucking shot. One really good save, which was very Adrian, but it was just an Adrian performance. Adrian and Matip, both the same, both looked totally utterly done in that game. But yeah, whatever. We'll see. But we'll see what comes when they get to Singapore. Right. Lastly on that, has anyone else watched the Klopp thing? It's good, isn't
it? Really good. Yeah, it was really good.
I like backwards cat Klopp. He always seems to be in good spirits.
He's relaxed at the minute, though. He's very relaxed. He's loving life at the moment. Taking selfies with dogs and that. He seems in a good place, which is good. Considering what's going on around him, it's like that. I said the other day about Schmadtke's walked into an absolute chaos this summer, hasn't he, with Henderson and Fabinho and stuff, like that dog meme with everything's on fire and he's fine, but Klopp seems very upbeat at the moment. It's good.
Very, very philosophical man though, isn't he? Things that make you tear your hair out don't bother him. He works with what he's got, and that's the way he's been.
But he had moments in the past, though, hasn't he, where he's looked quite downbeat.
And he said it himself. He went, we took a proper knock, and I was one of them. Like I was the same. Of course, it affected me. He's an emotional guy, but I'm encouraged by how encouraged he is. Yeah. He doesn't seem like a bullshitter. Mm-hmm. Like I reckon you'd be able to kind of. I think he would be a bit more.
He doesn't seem like someone who can hide his face, can hide what his brain's thinking. Yeah, and I agree with that. He just seems enthusiastic for the whole thing, which I think you need to be. If you're going to be the leader of Liverpool and you're going to get buy-in from people. I said it before, if you're going to lose your captain in a training, in pre-season, lose it when you're in the Black Forest, when you've got mountain bikes and rivers to jump in with Jurgen Klopp, because this is the time when he gets buy-in. And he talked about it, about like almost like the signing a contract thing. It's a metaphorical contract in Liverpool, but they do it in schools where you agree on a code of conduct for your class at the start of a year, and that way everyone's bought in. And if you've agreed to those rules, that's part and parcel of it. And this is the time to do that. So it feels like he's enthused by the whole thing, which we're going to need, because he's the biggest mantra I think he tries to put across, and this is why he's the perfect Liverpool manager, because it's the Scouse way of being, is try not to worry about things that are outside of your control, try not to worry about the past, things that have gone wrong. If something goes wrong, then you turn that into a positive to build from the future. That's a lesson to be learned. Mistakes are just lessons that you build from.
He loves this camp as well, doesn't he? He said yesterday he's going to go back next year if he can, so he loves where he is in the world right now.
This is his time of season. This is Klopp's time.
It's a happy place.
Singapore is very much not Klopp time.
No.
I think,
but that goes to show, I get the on this day stuff on Facebook. I was talking to Steve about it before, and it always reminds me, like, it was my last day in Boston 9 years ago from doing a pre-season tour, and last time leaving LA and doing all these things over the years. The Bangkok last year was it was weeks ago. You know, they started pre-season with a tour to the far side of the world, and it totally undermined
everyone got injured.
Yeah, exactly. It totally undermined everything we were doing. It feels like they've got their hands around what they're doing. Right. Brief break from us. Last few days to join up on Redmen Plus as a legend and get yourself in the draw for our incredible signed legend shirt. Some details to follow. And then in part 2, we're going to be discussing Jordan Henderson and Romeo Lavia.
Hey everyone, brand new month, brand new incredible Liverpool competition prize over on redmenplus.com. It is this. It is what we have affectionately dubbed the Legends shirt. Every former Liverpool player that we interviewed over the course of the season, we got them to sign this wonderful Liverpool home shirt. That includes, and let me get the list for you, you've got Rush, Aurelio, Skirtle, Aldridge, Steve McMahon, Mark Wright, Jay Spearing and Adam Lallana. All you need to do is go to redmenplus.com, join as a club legend or upgrade an existing subscription from club captain to club legend, and you will be in the prize draw at the end of the month for our incredible Liverpool legend shirt. redmenplus.com.
Hey, welcome back. Yes, last few days to head over to redmenplus.com, join as a legend and get yourself in the hat for our incredible legend shirt. There isn't another one like that on the planet, and I will stand by that. You know, where can you put those collection of just former Liverpool players in signature form together on last season's shirt? No one's done it, and no one's done it before, and no one will do it again. So you'll have one of the genuine, one of one pieces of Liverpool memorabilia if you win that. So yeah, sounds. And we do that every month, by the way, for Legends on Redmen Plus. We have an amazing piece of signed gear.
Can I drop a spoiler?
Go on.
The next one for August will be a current Liverpool player. Signed shirt.
Yeah.
No Legends next month. It's a proper... In the Legends a boss, but this is a...
Future legend.
Yeah. Absolute future legend of the football club.
Okay.
Won trophies at the football club.
Ooh. Even I'm starting to question. I think I told you who it was.
The 50-50 in my mind. I can't quite work it out. Yeah.
All will be real in August, people.
Okay, sounds. Right, listen, let's talk Jordan Henderson. You know, it's all but done. His deal to Al Ettifaq. Apparently he went to the AXA and said his goodbyes. He did his medical in Manchester over the weekend. The fee's all been agreed, so it's just a matter of time before it's all officially confirmed. I was asked on a live show the other day about, you know, what we think he'll do and will he put a statement out and what would that look like, and obviously don't want to speculate too much on that until we see it, but the lingering question over Henderson that's going to remain is going to be about his legacy. According to 400 Premier League fans surveyed in the Sky Bet Fan Hope survey, 81% think Jordan Henderson will undermine his support for Rainbow Laces if he joins the Saudi League, and 68% of Liverpool fans agree. There's a quote here. Former Liverpool captain Graham Souness told Sky Bet, I think with him as an ally of the LGBTQ plus community, and a supporter of Rainbow Laces, and he then ends up going to Saudi, I think without a doubt that will damage his legacy. Discuss, Stan Club.
No, absolutely. I make Graham Souness right on that, quite frankly. As we know, I spoke to Cop Out founder Paul Anam a couple of weeks ago in the studio there, and he said much the same thing. He'd been spoken to by lots of their community, lots of their members and subscribers, and they said exactly the same. So unfortunately for a lot of Liverpool fans, if it does end up going through, like it looks like it will tarnish his legacy as a footballer, as a person, as an ally. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult conversation for us to have, obviously not being involved in that sort of community, what have you. But it's so hard because to separate what he's done as a footballer and what he's done as a man is a very difficult thing. As a footballer, obviously he's led the club brilliantly, one of the best captains, certainly in my lifetime. We've won everything with him as a leader. But when he said the things and he stood for the things he's done in the past, he's kind of put himself up there to be judged, and he will be judged differently because of this. Like, I've heard lots of people say, well, Fowler's out there now, Gerrard's gone out. They haven't had the same levels of scrutiny. Unfortunately, they didn't do the good stuff that Henderson's done. So by doing the good stuff, Henderson's put himself in a position whereby if you then make this decision, people are going to criticise you for it. You rightly received the praise for your work and what you said and what you stood for. You're rightly going to receive the criticism for going essentially what many people will see as just completely undermining it and going back on it. So I'm not surprised that the numbers you mentioned there and people like Graham Souness are saying he's going to tarnish his legacy, because I think the damage he does with this move, for a lot of people, not everyone, would be irreparable.
I think his legacy as a Liverpool captain and a footballer isn't tarnished.
For some people it is.
Maybe, but I don't, in my opinion,
fair
I don't think it does. I can't separate it, but it absolutely has to have an impact, because you can't stand for something and then go again. Well, you can stand for something and then go against it when the money's right. That is that's almost the definition of like immoral, lack of morals or immorality, whatever you want to call it. In that, I stood for it until there was more money on the table, and then I didn't stand for it anymore. Yeah. Like, we've seen people throughout history stand for something and almost like put their life. And I'm not saying that that's dramatic, I understand it, but like, you didn't have to go to Saudi Arabia. And there'll be a lot of people that I bet in the comment sections, in the chats, and I've seen it on. I saw Kiva O'Neill tweet about it, and her disappointment at it, and
she wrote a brilliant.
She did. It's amazing, and all the comments were, but he's been offered $700,000 a week. You'd do the same, and that's all that it's coming down to. Is that what we're saying is his morals had a cost, and if your morals have a price on them, then of course you're going to get criticised. Some people will agree, some people will disagree, and that's fine. You be you, but. The thing that I don't understand is people arguing the other way against people who are saying it tarnishes him, because Paul and Kiva and other people of that community are telling you. They're telling you how we feel. They're telling you the answer. They do feel let down. Yeah. It's hard for me as a straight, middle-aged white guy to feel much oppression or much in terms of discrimination. I don't really get it. But the people who tell you they feel discriminated against are telling you. They are there. No, Paul's the same, and Kiva saying... Yeah. We feel let down. Members of the Cop House, we feel let down by this guy who was at the forefront of all these campaigns, for them to go to a country where, their lives wouldn't be allowed to be themselves. Yeah. Of course it's going to cause criticism, and it should be. He deserves to be criticised. I will applaud Jordan Henderson, the footballer, and Jordan Henderson for what he did as Liverpool captain in terms of everything he helped Liverpool do. But you can't escape the fact that questions are going to be asked about this, because he put himself out there, he did this, and he chose to be an ally, and he chose to be an ambassador, and that was his choice because he's a good guy. I get it, but when the money's been put in front of him, and that, I think I can see why that is bringing criticism, because I'm critical of him for doing the same.
It's really tough, isn't it, Ste Plunkett, because I feel I feel uncomfortable saying sentences like, well, if we put that to one side and just focus on the football stuff, because I don't know, it's just who we are as a fan base, I think, and certainly as a city, I think, emotion does come into it, and and morals and all that kind of stuff. We've always had a deeper connection to the players and the people at the football club, just how we behave, how we think. So I don't think you can really unplug it. I feel a bit dirty saying, sorry, LGBT community, I'm just going to totally put your feelings on this to one side and just go, well, Jordan Henderson won loads of trophies, but at the same time, it is the case of that. Jordan Henderson is just a footballer. He isn't a part of that community. He hasn't decided that he's not gay anymore because he's going to to be that. He's been a great advocate. He's been a great ally, but I don't know. I agree in one hand that it's if you make a moral stance, you've made a moral stance, and you do close doors for yourself. But at the same time, it must be bad when you've got peers. Bobby Firmino, and Fabinho, both going to end up playing against Jordan Henderson this season, and will suffer none of the same level of scrutiny as Jordan Henderson.
Yeah. In years to come, the heat will come out of that situation, and we'll go back to thinking of him more as a footballer. That's the way the world is. The biggest justification for all of this is Jordan's self-justification for the move, and he can take those beliefs with him and try and play a small part and catalyst for change. That's probably how he's justified it to himself.
That's going to be hard, isn't it?
Of course it is. But you have to open the door to some change in your life at some point. Saudi Arabia are trying to recruit everybody, and they'll take people from lots of different religious beliefs and lots of different ethical beliefs, and they may have to change the way they think to incorporate that if they're genuinely serious about becoming a world-class football league. That's a cultural change. I don't see that happening. But Jordan will take stick for this, and justifiably so. He will go over there and still be of the same mindset. He'll still believe that it's wrong. In his mind, he's agreed with himself that those two things can coexist. But as a captain of Liverpool Football Club, he's right up there. He's one of the best captains the club's ever had.
Yeah. Can I just say,
can't argue with that.
Dan makes a really good point, and it's a really good point why footballers are fucking robots now. Because you're right. None of this is getting mentioned by Ronaldo and Benzema and Fabinho and Firmino and Neves and Mbappe's going to go over there because they never stood for nothing. Because this is why I think when Henderson did it in the first place, that's why I was so, I don't know, encouraged or like happy or whatever, because he took the plunge into it, and you are right, he is now getting criticism for it, and you're right, he'll be thinking, fuck, should just get my mouth shut, because he probably did a lot of good. What Jordan Henderson said and did resonated with a lot of people.
Well,
he made a legacy to
how many people are talking about it?
Yeah,
You know, people are dragging up programme notes from 2 years ago on you know, around the Rainbow Laces campaign or whatever, and he's been a big supporter.
And I understand. I get it, mate, and I get it. Like I say, it's and you might be right. Did he do more good in that period? And then he had a legacy to tarnish. Some other people don't leave a legacy to tarnish.
Fabinho's making the same move, and we're not talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Your mouth shut.
I think this is the hardest thing for me on this, and I guess this is probably in defence of Jordan Henderson, but I've half thought this through. I'll say it is that why it's so bad is that, I mean, like, why is Jordan Henderson the face of this? Like, why is he the only one who's facing this criticism?
Because of this?
Because he's the only one who's spoken out about it.
Yeah.
But who's Jordan Henderson? Yeah. Like, what is that's an indictment of football. Yeah. Like, why is of all these people who've got far bigger platforms, who've got far more going for them, this is just like, you know, if it's to be believed, Jordan Henderson is, by all accounts, by the vast majority of people I see on the internet, is a very average footballer who's just been a bit, you know, who's gotten by, you know, being a workhorse for a good football team under a good manager. I disagree. I think he's been better than that, by the way. But I think that's where the hate comes from, because it's not even about Henderson. It's about the fact that none of these other fuckers have stood up and said anything, and the only one who has now had his head turned. So it puts more scrutiny on Jordan Henderson, but it should turn more scrutiny on the rest of football and the rest of the league and society as a whole. Because, and again, it goes back to your point. It's actually, and it's just such a shame that Jordan Henderson's going to probably end up setting this cause back. But it shouldn't have been on Jordan Henderson in the first place. Him standing up shouldn't be an isolated incident. To take it back to a football analogy, we used to love Dirk Kuyt because he used to run all day, and it's mad when you look back on it under a Jurgen Klopp team to have a player stand out because he runs. You don't stand out in Jurgen Klopp's team because everybody runs. But Dirk Kuyt, we adored him because that was his thing. That was the cliche. All he ever does for us is run. Jordan Henderson has been put on a pedestal. He should never have been put on a pedestal. He should have been one of many who were able to come out and stand up and talk about this. And that's why I do feel sorry for him to some extent. As sorry as you can feel for a man who's going to earn 350 grand a week tax-free for the next 3 years and is going to acquire more wealth in 3 years than any of us combined will ever do in our entire lives. But again, I feel sad for the community, because that's why you'll feel let down, because you're looking around at all these other footballers, this sport that you adore, and you're looking, and someone stuck their head above the parapet, and it must be like, oh wow, great! Thank you so much for speaking up for what I believe in, for being a voice for us, and then to have that taken away. That's I from my understanding is where I feel that too.
I get it, and I also think, mate, as well, like, I looked at Kiva's article and Kiva's tweet, the cop-out stuff. I saw Mel Reddy spoke about it, didn't she, on Sky Sports in the comments. It was like, stop telling people how they should fucking feel. People are telling you that they feel let down. Don't tell them they can't, because that's not right. I'm not going to sit here and tell people how you don't tell people how to feel. They're these people, and they're just two of many examples. The
problem is,
and Paul represents a group, doesn't he? And he said the same. They're telling you this is a kick for us. This is the guy who, you know, we put a lot into, and almost like, you know, if he can be turned, anyone can be turned, kind of thing. And it's also a point of what it's going to do. The criticism in a way is weird. It's going to stop other people standing up, because they're going, oh bloody hell, see what happened when Jordan said something. Marcus Rashford feeding kids got so much stick for it. I was just concentrate on your footy, mate. Don't, you know, do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and then he signs a new contract the other day. Oh, are you going to feed all the kids with that, Marcus? Gary Lineker stands up for stuff he believes in, and he gets criticised for it. This is why people keep the fucking mouth shut.
Exactly.
People, because as soon as you are, and I get it, because we're criticising them now.
This is the depressing part of the whole thing, is that it's money, and you're not just fighting against like a religious ideology, because that's what it comes down to, and that's why, you know, we're playing devil's advocate on this. If you're raised and have got a blinkered religious view, and I think, you know, fundamentalists in any religion have got this, is that it's like you feel like it's actually part of the core of who you are, whereas it's not. Religion is a choice ultimately, but a lot of people don't think that it is. But you're then technically seen as this quite small community. You're not just fighting against the religious views of a people or population or a nation or whatever. You're fighting against money as well, and the money's going to win because that's how our society is structured. So that must feel so depressing as a point. And again, that's just, you know, it'll be a drop in the wider ocean. But when you're a small community fighting for legitimacy, fighting for acceptance in the world, anyone who's on your side must feel like an absolute fucking huge win. To the point where, let's be honest, if Cristiano Ronaldo had stood up, that would have been a much bigger win just in terms of global reach for the community. But it wasn't. It was Jordan Henderson, an absolutely fine English footballer, stood up for it. And then to have that, to lose that, to feel like you've lost that foothold is almost a bigger kick than anything else, because then again, you're looking around and going, who else has stood up? Who else is going to stand up? No one with any big reputation is going to stand up. And that's why I thought Kieran O'Neill was actually brave in doing it, because, you know, she's a journalist. That might limit her ability to work in certain spheres. God knows, you know, I mean, Grant Wild got all kinds of stick, didn't he, going to the World Cup and trying to wear rainbow t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. It will limit, you know, these things will potentially limit your options in a world where money dominates.
And it's strange, isn't it?
Religious ideology plus money is almost an unbreakable thing at the moment.
We are part of the problem is by a little bit by having this conversation, because we're criticising him because he stood up for something. Now he changed his mind on it. This, and I'm saying there before, aren't I? This is why players keep their mouth shut, and we criticise that. Yeah. So it's almost the only way he wasn't going to get. No, it's not. It isn't lose though, because he didn't have to go. That's the ultimate of it. 100%. He didn't have to go. He's chose to go. Like, and I get it. Someone's put and they'll be, oh well, what would you turn it down? Blah blah blah. Well, I'm not a millionaire.
Yeah.
And I still think I would. I might be wrong, but I don't know. But I get that's the.
I've said it before, Steve, and it's not the same. But I've had to turn down media opportunities over the years because because I've made a moral stance. I've said don't buy the Sun. I've stood behind behind the Justice campaign and all those kind of things, and that closes media opportunities to you. And I'm absolutely fine with that, by the way. You know, because fortunately as Liverpool, we're fortunate that we've got other opportunities that are presented to us. We follow the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs on the planet, but that's what goes with having morals, means that you don't get to always do everything that that other people get to do. And look, it comes down to it. Ultimately, as a footballer, it's a fabulous opportunity for Jordan Henderson to go in an absolute ton of money. I don't think he would have expected that offer to drop on his table. When he sat doing his pre-season preparations, I think he's thinking Liverpool. I don't think he thought for a second he was going to get a phone call saying, "Do you want to come and join the mega riches of the Saudi League?" And there is something to just being wanted and being desired that will have.
And also, mate, he hasn't had a chance to have a say yet.
Yes,
exactly. We
That's
need,
crucial.
And I think Steve's point's right. Maybe he is the man who is brave enough to go and wear a rainbow lace on the side. Maybe he is. Maybe he's doing the opposite, and he goes right, I'm going to be this agent to change. I have very high doubts about that and whether he would be allowed to do it. But what we're sitting here as it stands, we're recording this. It might change, of course, whatever. But Jordan hasn't had a say yet. I think it's fair to. At some point, we'll hear what he's got to say, and he definitely should be asked about it, and he will be. Whether that's in his official statement or it's down the line when the first journalist gets a microphone in front of him, someone will ask him about it, and then when we hear what he's got to say, because at the moment, and we're part of it, so I'm not blaming anyone per se, but there's a bit of a pile on. Yeah, it would be because he hasn't left yet. He hasn't had a chance to say. I wonder if he might contact Kiva, he might contact Mel Reddy, he might contact the Cop House. We don't know, and he's allowed to have his say. And this is the thing, he deserves.
And look, ultimately, Steve,
that's fair.
He's a straight white male who doesn't contravene the you know what I mean. He is actually just entitled to go and work how he wants to work and do what he wants to do. Yeah. But again, there's no rules against it. There's nothing stopping him from doing it. It is just a sense of disappointment. it won't affect most people's lives moving forward. He's just another footballer who's been at the football club, had success and moved on. There's tons of Liverpool footballers who've caused the controversy and done things. I mean, for God's sake, we've just read a quote from Graham Souness about tarnishing legacy, who literally went and did an interview with the Sun while he was a Liverpool manager and absolutely ruined his legacy with a ton of Liverpool supporters, by the way. I'm not sure what the percentage of Liverpool fans would think about him, but, you know, that's... There's an irony to all of this. Like, he is without sin, cast the first stone. None of us are free of sin. None of us have ever had perfect morals and not had them changed in the face of, you know, a variety of situations and whatever. I see it before, you know, every time we make mention of anything involving the Middle East, the first instant response is, well, what about Nike? What about Standard Chartered and all this? Nobody's trying to absolve anything of blame, but as a one issue debate, and just, you know, to kind of speak up for that community and the reputation. If you take a strong moral stance on something and then you change that, then it will damage your reputation and possibly your legacy in some extent. That's just a fact.
I'd be interested to know people, like I say, comments and stuff, what people themselves think. Because again, there's a survey there, like I said, the Sky Bet survey. A lot, was it almost 3/4 of people think it will?
Yeah.
And I, if I was asked to vote in that survey, I would say, yeah, I do.
It's not going to take away my Jordan Henderson memories. It's not going to take away.
He's been
a brilliant footballer for Liverpool.
He's been a good guy.
A great guy. He's done brilliant work for a host of charities. You know, he's worked for Alder Hey, he's worked for the NHS, in rallying the captains together during lockdown. He's been an inspirational figure for multiple communities, for multiple individuals, for groups of people, for a whole set of fan base across the world, across creeds, colours, religions, everything. He's been a brilliant captain for Liverpool, and I stand by that. I think he's been a brilliant footballer for Liverpool, and that will always remain as well. And I think it's a shame that we have to. That someone who's worked so hard, I think, should even have anything. It's a bit, you know, again, a completely different circumstances, but if you could undo, like, Gerrard slipping, so that he just gets to be this magnificent footballer and only people only remember from the good times, these are completely different. I'm not trying to trivialise it. It's a shame that people don't get to live as perfect, these perfect figures in our memories, but... You know, he's a person ultimately, and he's entitled to make his decisions. If he's made that, you know, he's sat down, he won't have done that out of hand. You know, he'll be well aware of why he's done it. I'm eager to see how he responds. Does he even respond to it? And he doesn't have to. By the way, he doesn't have to respond to anything, because, again, to the point, he is not a member of the community. He's just been a person who said some nice things about it. Ultimately, are we making a bit too much of it? I don't know. I just put to Dan's point earlier on, you know, cop-outs and people from that community are rightfully upset, and I think it's worth bringing to the table. Anyway, look, you know, just to wrap up on the Henderson stuff, you can read all about the other findings of the 2023 Sky Bet Fan Hopes survey. Add your voice to the debate and share your season predictions on Sky Bet Fan Central. The link is in the description below. If you go onto the website, I went over and did a couple of videos and stuff, so my face is on the Liverpool page on there, trying to spread a little bit of hope and optimism ahead of the new season, because, let's be honest, it was rubbish last year. So fingers crossed that it does improve. But yeah, look, I think that kind of draws a little bit of a line under it. Please do have your say on it. You're entitled to your opinion on it. Absolutely. We tread into dangerous waters when we start to talk about what the fundamental building blocks of people. I know, and it does feel like we seem to have a greater percentage of these conversations as Liverpool fans over the years. But again, morals are very much at the centre. Morals and politics are very much at the centre of discussions of being Liverpool fans, being Scousers as well. So, yeah. Quite how I transition out of that into chat about Romeo Lavia being linked with a move to Liverpool, I don't know, so I'm just going to go for it. Dan Club, it went quiet for a week or so. It feels like in the last 24 hours, this has really ramped up again.
Yeah, certainly has. Certainly this morning. Yeah, and I think that the going quiet thing is actually an interesting point amongst all of this, because we kind of alluded to it earlier, like losing Henderson, to segue there, losing Henderson and Fabinho wasn't part of our plan, and Steve kind of touched upon us being sort of methodical. And I think we're good in transfer windows. I sort of hark back to sort of even the Edwards era when he was sort of overseeing this sort of thing, because when we can be proactive, we go into these windows with all our best laid plans, and we can sort of laser guide decided almost in what we want to do. And it felt like once we got McAllister, and obviously Szoboszlai was a bit of a, go and get that done. So that was quite nice. But we had our plans, and we sort of had one eye on the Lavia situation. We were sort of waiting. But now the Fabinho and Henderson stuff has changed the landscape entirely. So it has made us kind of take stock and sort of reevaluate what we want to do. But it looks like what we want to do is still Romeo Lavia, which is fascinating in itself because he is a specialist six, to come back to what Neil Jones was talking about. But I think a lot of us, probably me included, don't see him as the frontline specialist six. He still should be the understudy. Now, whether Klopp and Pep Linders, etc., see him as more than that, I think he is ready and he is sort of good to go and slot into the role. I'm not sure, but yeah, it has taken on a new lease of life. Obviously, Sasha Tavolieri, who I spoke to this morning, and Florian Plettenberg both speaking about it on Twitter. 35 million bid looks like it's going to be going in at some point. Whether that's enough to get it done remains to be seen. Southampton want 50. I really like him as a player, good grounding, come through the Man City Academy as well as the Anderlecht one. So I think there's definitely... Basically, Liverpool don't want to miss out on this player, I think it's fair to say. Whether we see him as the six to go from day one, that's where the debate is.
I think that's the really interesting point for me on this, and that's why I'm trying not to be outraged at every twist and turn in this transfer window, because there's still time to go, and there's still, clearly players to come in. If you're telling me that a 19-year-old who's played, and I looked into this, he's played 7,700 minutes as a footballer, like as a professional footballer, and that counts like under 18, Premier League under 18 leagues and all that kind of stuff. As a senior footballer, I think he's played twice as many minutes as Stefan Bajcetic. I think you can find gems, and they can explode, and they can be perfect. It doesn't matter about the age. To some extent, if you've got a great footballer and potential, he can come into your side and he can do the business for you. I look at it, and if we're starting the Premier League and our regular DM is 19 years old, I'm just looking at Man City and going, Roger, he's the best in the world. He's 26. He is the best of the best in that. Declan Rice has been bought for £105 million for Arsenal. He's starting that. If we're swapping Fabinho for Lavia, I think we've weakened our starting 11, and I think we've weakened our chances of jumping straight back to being a Premier League challenging team.
Yeah, potentially.
If it's just Lavia and it stops there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't. Is he even worse than Fabinho was last year? I don't know. Like, Fabinho was really bad.
It's not. To my point, it's not about isolated standout performances. Fabinho is a senior international caliber footballer.
If you crap. Fabinho might just be crap now.
Okay.
So that's he might. I don't know. My guess is he might be, because there's a reason he accepted a bid for him. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have to. Again, they didn't have to accept that, but they didn't want to. I'm with you. I agree. I wouldn't want to go into season with just Lavia, but like I say, they might just think he's good enough. They thought Harvey Elliott was good enough to play every game for Liverpool, and he was a kid, and he'd had a season at Blackburn on loan. Really, he'd come through, had a few half games here for him, a little bit of Liverpool, and then he had a season, he was ready to go. They might just think that Lavia is good to go. So I tend to disagree with that. I'm with you. It's Moises Caicedo's the name I keep going back to. It's like, can you go and get him? Can you go and hijack this Chelsea thing, which feels like it's stalling? And that one looks like it, unless he's give Liverpool
he's not that good.
I think he's brilliant.
He's not 75 to 80 million pound good though. I
think he might be if Declan Rice is worth 100 million.
Yeah.
And mate, there's a fella going for 300 million quid. Like the market's mad, but that it's difficult because I do like, and I see points. I think they just really like Lavia. Whether they like him as good to go number one right now, or they like him as get him into the club as one of two, I would prefer this, the second one. It's a difficult market to buy in because we've just mentioned some players. If every valuation is set on Enzo Fernandez and Declan Rice worth 100 million, it's why Brighton hold out for Moises Caicedo. They know they can get it. So maybe Liverpool are, what's encouraging and going back to Caicedo and then Lavia, I'll tie it in. By all accounts, Lavia said it's Liverpool. Yeah. He's made the decision. We think maybe Caicedo's made that for Chelsea. That's why we're not. He might have done. We're saying, isn't it great? Lavia's done it. Caicedo might have done that for Chelsea. If he hasn't, I would hope that Liverpool would be in the mix for him. But yeah, I think Fabinho was so bad last year that I think you could upgrade on him for 35 million, but 35 million is not going to get you what Fabinho was. So what are you aiming for? Yeah. Are you aiming for just a very, very good DM who's going to have loads of help because Trent's going to be stood next to him? Or do you want some fella who's on his own, the lighthouse that Fabinho was. Because if you want that, you're probably not getting it straight away. Lavia might become that, but that's hard to get. So my inkling, and I've had a theory on this, and I apologize, I've spoken a while there, but I still think Liverpool were holding for Tchouaméni. I've got a feeling they were really hoping that Real Madrid needed some dough and some space to get Mbappe. And all of a sudden Mbappe might be going to Saudi Arabia, and they're going, well, sound. There's that ship sailed. We'll push the button now, and we'll go and get the kid, and at least we've got someone, and then we'll get our options.
That is my overall take on, I think, Liverpool's approach. I don't think this is a summer where we go, the right man's not available, we'll get no one.
Yeah.
I think they'll just go and get they will just push the button on players this summer, because that's
and if you're going to do that, do it on a young player who can grow. Yeah. Don't do that on fucking Amrabat. Yeah. Who you think that might be his level, and then we're saying,
they might do both.
But you need to do both.
But Steve, this is the point. I think people are. This is why my confidence comes from fear, and I just don't think I'm the only one who feels the fear. Is Liverpool can't afford another season like last season. They can't afford to gamble again. No one at that club can afford to gamble. The owners can't afford to gamble. The manager can't afford to gamble, and then the players who are taken to the pitch can't afford it, because we're one more season of Europa League football away from being a Europa League team. Yeah, you can say it's a blip, but you've got to get back on the horse, and that's why I think Lavia, they're just going, right, fuck it. That it's in an ideal situation, because he's not exactly what they think they want in terms of age profile, experience, all that kind of thing. He breaks a bit of the mold. He's a gamble, even though he looks a good player in the Premier League. But I think they're left with this. Right, fuck it. We're better off gambling on players than a lack of players this time.
So you bid for him. 35 is the figure. They got offered 40 last summer by Chelsea, and they turned it down. They know that this time next year, Man City have got a buyback clause at 40. So what they can afford to say, it's 50, take it or leave it, because if you don't take it, we'll keep him in our team, and he'll give us 12 months of trying to get back into the Premier League. So we're in a win-win situation. So they hold all the cards in that regard. They pick the price. They want 50 for Livramento, who's been out for a year. Mental. That's just the way they're doing the things that they're doing. Across the season, last season, we all sat there and thought, that's a big responsibility for an 18-year-old sitting at the base of your midfield, having to have panoramic vision and see everything. And we're potentially going to spend £50 million to double that quota at that age, because there's not a lot between them. The point you made about the minutes, he's so inexperienced. To go and spend £50 million on a player in there, and I'll take your point before that it shouldn't just be him. There's got to be somebody else that him and Bajcetic can learn from. And I don't think Amrabat's your man for that job either. It's really, really difficult. I like the idea that we're holding off, because on the way in the car, the murmurings from France are that he's not even going to entertain going to Saudi Arabia, and that PSG think he's already agreed his contract with Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. So hopefully Real Madrid need the money to balance the books, and we throw the Henderson money at the Fabinho money and what we've got to Tchouaméni, and then the world changes. Then you've got that ready-made plug-in that goes and does your job for you. I can't see how it changes bringing a 19-year-old into the base of the midfield too much from how it was last year with an 18-year-old. They don't have the experience.
Only just in so much as, right now, it's better than not. It's better than what we've got, which is literally no one. Bajcetic is only just starting to come back to training. Thiago's getting closer as well. That changes the landscape. But Thiago's not robust enough to be your proper week in, week out DM, and Bajcetic, you need to be careful of him. You need to nurture these players.
Got a stress injury for playing too much. Yeah?
Exactly.
See, I don't know. I might be reading this completely wrong. I thought if they went Lavia, that allows them to do what they don't usually do and do stopgap. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't have to worry about it. So if you get Lavia in, then you can get Amrabat or Palhinha, for example. He's just done his shoulder, so that's him off the book. But that's what my thinking was. If they get the kids in who's there and they develop, that gives you 30 million quid to go, you know what, we don't really like doing this, but he's 27 and we'll get 2 or 3 years out of him. That's what that gives you. So maybe that's a part of it as well. They surefire themselves for the future. They get the lad who could be at Liverpool for 5 years by spending 40 million quid on the teenager. And while he does this development that you and Steve rightly both say he probably needs, go and get your Casemiro, or maybe not that good, but of an age where you just go, you'll play and Lavia can develop. That's what this potentially does for them. They've never done it before, really. Thiago is a big exception to a rule. Maybe that's on the cards. Maybe there's someone down the line, whether it's an Amrabat, it might have been Paulinho again before he'd done his shoulder. Maybe that's on the cards where they're gonna well, we can't get the 24-year-old. Why don't we get the 19-year-old and the 27-year-old? And it might pay the same amount of money for both of them. Yeah. Maybe that's on the... I don't know. Maybe.
I think there's a couple of situations, you're right, that have happened in the last few days in Liverpool. I think they've been slow playing it a touch because they've had a little bit of time. No need to push the button because something might have developed. And there's a fine line between taking... You can do it on the pitch, on the football pitch. People who are inexperienced or panicky, it's like, just boot the ball. You watch junior football, just kick the ball down the pitch, The better you are, the more the game slows down around you and the more you wait and things develop. Some other people move, the landscape shifts and you get to capitalise. But there comes a point where you just held on too long and you've been swarmed and you lose the ball. Yeah, exactly. And Liverpool, I think they've handled this transfer market really well for that. They've taken the time that they've needed to get what needs to be done. But I think we've done those 2 practice games. I mean, it was behind closed doors, that last one. If you want to talk about like meaning in a game, if that had any meaning, they'd have put it in a stadium with 30,000 people and made a ton of dough out of it. It was a practice game. Now we're at the point now, this is the proper pre-season kind of starts now, and now you're actually wasting time by not having footballers in with you. And so I think they looked at it and gone, Palhinha's just picked up an injury, so that kind of takes him off the table. There's no point in buying him now at his age if he's got that injury. If Mbappe moved, the Tchouaméni stuff looks like that window opportunity is just not going to line up with us, right? That might come around on like the final day of the transfer window. You might be able to sneak him, but you can't afford to play that game. That's too much of a gamble to wait for that. Mm-hmm. And so Lavia, he wants to play for you. He's there. He's a better fit for the DM slot than someone like Kefren Turam or other lads that I think we've gotten close with over the summer. And so this just feels like the point now where they've gone, right, it's ideal, but let's go and box that and then we can move on with whatever comes next.
I disagree on the ideal bit. I think they really like him. But I think they really like him in the same way.
I think they really like him as a Fabinho.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they really like him. I think it's ideal if he's the best DM at the football club when you start the season. That would be ideal. But I think what we're doing, and again, this might come back and bite us. I think I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt that this isn't spending 70 million, 80 million quid and blowing your budget. This should be wiggle room. He's going for, you might get him for the same as what you're getting back for Fabinho, for example, and then you've still got other, the money that you also have available, plus whatever Henderson goes for, plus half the other lads who are about to be sold, your Phillipses and whatever. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they are going to get another one. I wouldn't be comfortable Liverpool going into the start of the season where Lavia, you're saying who's the best DM at the club? Is it Lavia or Bajcetic? It should be who's the best DM, and then who's better, Lavia or Bajcetic, to back him up.
100%.
You don't want both.
We've had a super chat in from Matty Gorman. Says get Caicedo in, Bajcetic can be his understudy. We don't need Lavia. And to go back to your point, is that when football is played in our football manager understanding of it, I agree, well, you can just go and pay him the money and whatever. It stands to reason to me that there's got to be something going on behind the scenes. There's no way we've not spoken to Caicedo, because there was a rumour last year that we almost had that agreed at the end of the season, but we couldn't get it over the line before the window, which is why we went with the invisible Brazilian in the midfield instead. So they've clearly had conversations with Caicedo over and it's like the Bellingham stuff. If they just feel like he's not the right personality type, and bear in mind this is a guy who spat his dummy out in January and wrote a farewell letter to the Brighton to try and force a move. Mm-hmm. I know you need a little bit of that, but they might have looked at Caicedo and gone, "You're a gobshite, you. And I actually, not only are you not worth the money, but we don't think you're the right personality fit." Or
they've had the nod that he's going to Chelsea. Yeah. They moved off from Bellingham. Everyone's gone, "Oh, Liverpool can't afford him." There's a very good chance he went going to Real Madrid. The reason Newcastle pulled out the Szoboszlai bid, because he said go to Liverpool. Like we just presume, like Chelsea is a draw still. You'd be like, they're not playing in Europe, I get it, but they're a big club. They win things. Mm-hmm. They are in London. They're going to pay him a fucking load of dough. Yeah. He might have just said, "I want to go to Chelsea," and Liverpool have gone sound. Because we've said before, having a Jürgen, he won't. He'll talk to you, but if you don't get the yet, then sound, I'll go somewhere else. Doesn't really want to be sat there convincing footballers. If by all accounts, and again, I spoke to Neil on Journal Insight a few weeks ago about Caicedo, and he said the people at Liverpool he spoke to think he's going to Chelsea. Yeah. That was the answer. We think now they also
things can change.
Of course, because they thought Szoboszlai was going to Newcastle. Yeah. So things of course can develop, but you're right. I think either they balked at the price or he's told them he's going. It's a big price. I still think he's worth paying it for, but I do understand the reluctance if that's it. But
yeah,
he is great. He's. I mean, if you said to me now, Lavia and Caicedo, I think 99.9% of Liverpool fans are
if you're buying from in the Premier League, he's the one, because it looks like he's going to move. So it's not like you're trying to get an immovable object out of a football club. There's clearly he's a wobbly tooth at Brighton at the moment, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's clearly available.
Wobbly gold tooth.
Yeah.
I think with the Amrabat and Lavia thing is there's no light and day and night between them in terms of ability. Amrabat's a decent player. Lavia is a decent player who's only going to get better. There's no marked difference between where they're at right now. Lavia will give you a bit more physically. Amrabat's a bit more experienced, might make different decisions. You want someone, and if Thiago was able to stay fit, he'd be perfect to play in that role, because he would find your eights all day long with the ability, and he's been a deep line midfielder.
Not alongside Trent, though. Do you need him alongside Trent for the six? Because Trent's your passive, isn't he?
But he's a deep line midfielder for Bayern Munich.
I think he'd get injured.
I think you need a bit more.
Yeah, and the injury thing means you kind of have to rule that out. But the guy that's sitting at the base of your midfield is arguably one of your key areas. To put a 19-year-old in there.
Well, mate, I think Liverpool's biggest issue last season, there was loads of them, was how fucking crap Fabinho was.
Absolutely.
And second biggest issue was how crap Jordan Henderson was. And I think if you can sort those two out, Liverpool can go from fifth to title challenges completely.
I agree.
But I think because they were massive issues. If you'd never watched the Reds before and you hadn't seen what Fabinho had done 3 years ago or Henderson had done 4 years or 2 years ago, you go, why are they in your team? Because they're hurting you. They're a net negative. So maybe getting Lavia in just raises the floor. And you go, you know what, it can't be that bad. But it could be.
Klopp and Pep Linders are expert coaches. And if anyone can take the raw materials or something and turn it into more and better, they're better with younger players than they are with older players who aren't set in the ways and all that kind of stuff. Like, so, true, yeah. You're gonna, and it's easy, teach a new dog new tricks, as it were, as opposed to teaching an old one. It'll be what it be. And again, we're trying to keep this like an open-ended conversation, and rather than it be put a full stop at the end of it as though this is it and done, it's Lavia and then the shutters go up, that's Liverpool done. Mate,
if anyone's speaking with any certainty in this transfer window, they're fools. Yeah. Because look at this transfer window, it's mental out already. Not just Liverpool, all over the world. Declan Rice, £100 million. There's a fella being offered £700 million to go and play in the Middle East. There's Harry Kane's been turning down 400 grand a week, and Messi's just gone to America. Like the landscape of football is so unpredictable at the moment, and I think that doesn't suit Liverpool. Liverpool like their ducks in a row, and they like to have everything lined up. And I just don't know if you can be that now. And you might have to start being. This might suit your Chelseas and Uniteds, who are always a little bit more fuck it. Yeah. You know what I mean? A little bit more like we'll go with the flow and we'll do it. They might thrive more in this market, and Liverpool are going to have to learn to adapt. I do think, and that's what I said about this. I just think Liverpool are going to speculate a bit more in this window than they ever have to, because they've literally got no choice. And it goes back to this whole thing. All the things that get used to bash these people with is if you think Liverpool's owners are penny pinchers, but if they're penny pinchers, then they're not going to want to own a football club that loses hundreds of millions off the valuation by not being a Champions League team anymore. So that there will be an algebraic equation that says it's worth us spending X to be able to maintain Y, and Jurgen Klopp again is going, he's loyal to players. I do think that's why they've got Schmeichel in, because Schmeichel's a bellend. And I think it's a bit of like Klopp's going, I can't really be the guy to turn around to the guys and go, it's not you anymore. They've got someone. That's how we look at Vallo. Didn't even speak to him.
Yeah, but that's it. You've got someone who goes in and does those hard conversations for you and stuff. I just think Liverpool are going to be a bit more ruthless. But again, we can't judge anyone on anything you want. But there's still time for things to happen. Klopp was quite clear himself on that podcast the other day. We just know we've got to. Losing those two players means there's no choice now but to go into the market, and it does mean that we're probably going to be bullied on price a little bit more, which is not what we like, but we've got no choice now, because the alternative is more Europa League, your best players fucking off, your manager fucking off, and your overall value of the football club shrinking down.
Your Arsenal for the last 10,
Yeah.
5
Man
years,
United.
for the last 5 years.
Exactly.
You know,
You'll come back again, because you will, because it's a huge club. But if you want to capitalise on get back and continue let the good times continue to roll, then you've got to push. You've got to push in the next couple of weeks. Right, Sound, we're going to wrap up there. Just to let you know, we set it up nicely in the middle of the studio. Was the brand new Bobby
Go on,
Firmino
Dan, you
book.
can grab it.
I was going to say.
Yeah, Dan's a bit more flexible than me. The best in the world, Bobby Firmino book has finally landed. You can pick them up right now on redmenmerch.com. It's huge, it's wonderful, it's full colour, it's got loads of amazing pictures, stories written by myself, by Dan, and by Steve Hoare as well. You can get an author-signed edition signed by all three of us. Go and check it out on redmenmerch.com. Because they're here, and any worries that I had that they might not turn out to be absolutely splendid have been totally put to bed. There is that huge anxiety that comes where printing books costs lots of money. It was a significant. There was more zeros on it that I would tend to pay for anything in my life. Pressing that OK button and knowing that it's all on me if it's not right was a heart-stopping moment. But we've got it. It's beautiful. I'm incredibly proud of it, and it's great for all ages. Great for Bobby Firmino fans. Great for Liverpool fans. If you're looking for a gift for yourself or a red in your life, then no one's going to be disappointed if they unwrap that and see that absolute beautiful behemoth in their hands. Redmenmerch.com for that. That's what she said. Right, thank you so much. Redmen Originals Podcast. We'll be back on Monday. Is it back on Monday next week?
I've got no idea.
Should be play Sunday, don't we?
Yes.
Back on a Monday next week. So thank you so much for waiting an extra day, because Liverpool have ruined our lives by playing midday friendlies on Mondays. But there we go. Right, see you all soon. Ta-ra.
Hey everyone, what's happening? Are you a huge Roberto Firmino fan? Well, why don't you check out our brand new book, Bobby Firmino, Best in the World. It is available right now for pre-order. It is a prestige A4 format book with incredible stories, fantastic stats, insight, photographs, and unique artwork from a whole host of incredible Liverpool artists as well. So yeah, for you and for any great Roberto Firmino super fan in your life, celebrate the life and times of the boy from Maceió, the boy from Brazil, the boy that the cop absolutely adored, and it's available on pre-order on redmenmerch.com right now. Hey, so all episodes of Bobby Firmino, Best in the World, our 3-part documentary series are streaming right now on redmenplus.com. Subscribers over there get access to the full series. They get the full interviews for our contributors on there, including Liverpool legends past and present. And if you go over there right now and join as a Club Legend yearly subscriber, in your inbox you'll receive 2 codes which are going to give you access to 2 free pieces of Bobby Firmino merch. Celebrate a Liverpool legend with your feet up on the beach this summer in style with some cool Bobby Firmino gear. Head to redmenplus.com and join as a Club Legend yearly subscriber.